Yesterday we ran out of time and I gave you this worksheet without going over a couple of the problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at, let's go to number 3. Okay, so we're going to be comparing 1 and 1/10 to the square root of 2. In other words, which one's less than, greater than, or are they equal? Okay, we talked yesterday about putting those into the same format, so I already have a decimal here. Using our calculator, we're going to find the value in decimal form of this imperfect square. So just a quick review. It's in test mode, you just have to press enter. Okay, so the square root of 2. We push the control, the x squared button, and we enter the number 2 and press enter. 1, and I'm going to go ahead and shorten that because I'm only comparing one other number. So those two numbers. Now you notice that I have 2 decimal places here, the tenths and the hundredths. This goes to the tenths. Even though that this number looks bigger, sometimes we need to add a 0 so we can compare the two numbers. So we know that 1 and 1/10, is it greater than or is it less than 1 and 41 hundredths? So because I added that 0, now I can compare. Is 10 less than 41? Absolutely. So we would use the less than sign. Okay? The rule of thumb here is to make sure that you convert all of the fractions and the imperfect squares into decimal format so you can line them up and place them in order from least to greatest, or I'm sorry, to see which one is less than or greater than. So at the bottom, so the top is pretty simple, and I think that it's pretty self-explanatory. Number 6, you may have to, well, you'll have to convert this fraction. And remember that when you have a number line, let's say this is 0, when you go to the right, your numbers increase. Okay? When you go to the left, your numbers are getting smaller, even though it appears to be getting bigger. So for example, -1, -2, -3, they look like they're getting bigger, but they're actually getting smaller. Okay, so just be mindful of that. At the bottom, we need to order each one of the sets of numbers from least to greatest. And so the way we're going to do that, I want everybody to look at number 8. Okay? All right, so we're looking at number 8, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it onto a separate sheet of paper. This one is already in decimal format. The 3/8, remember that a fraction is actually division. The top number is 3 divided by, so the numerator divided by the denominator. And you press enter. Now if you notice, it just made it look more like a fraction, didn't it? So what we need to do is convert that to a decimal, and this calculator will do that for you by pressing menu. You press the 2 and then convert to decimal 1. So menu to 1 will convert any number into a decimal. So and what I like to do is give the numbers that were given. The decimal conversion, I just carry it down so it's easier to compare. And then 2/5. All right, so 2 divided by 5, and then enter menu to 1, which is 4/10. Okay? All right, so now we can compare these. What I like to do, and sometimes this is a little bit easier for everyone, is to put all these numbers in decimal form into a vertical line. Okay. Add the zeros. So you're comparing 3 numbers. So which one is the smallest number? Absolutely. 375. And I'm going to put first, because that's the least. I'm going to cross it out. Which comes next? 400, 500, or 440? I'm sorry, 4/10, 5/10, or 44 hundredths here. And in actuality, it's 440 thousandths, 500 thousandths, or 400 thousandths. Okay, you're right. This is number 2, second. And between these two, absolutely. This is third, and this is fourth. The reason that I'm doing that in this format is that it's easier because this is what you're going to order. Okay? This helps you to figure out which number is least and then order them from least to greatest. But remember that these are the numbers that you're ordering. So what I'd like to do is I rewrite them. 3/8. The second was 2/5, and you put it back into the format that you were given. Third and fourth. That, my friends, is 4 rational numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay, let's do one more, and then I'm going to let you do the rest for independent work. Okay, let's do some negatives. Let's jump to number 13, right here. So we have 4 and 12 hundredths. The square root of 16, we know that that is a perfect square, but if you want to see it in your calculator, remember the garden we talked about was 16 plants, how many roots did it have? So to find the square root, press 16 in the box, and you press enter, and the square root is 4. Remember that this is a representation that is given in the problem, and I automatically convert it. If it's already in decimal form, you simply rewrite it. Okay? Then you have a -4. It's already in integer. Then you have 9 halves, and you have -17/4. So these two fractions we're going to have to put as a decimal. Okay? Remember that when you have a fraction, it means division. So what we're going to do is 9 divided by 2. So 9 divided by 2. And I always go up to the window to make sure that I entered it correctly. Okay? So they gave me a fraction, and I need to convert it. So my answer is 4 and 5/10. Because it originally started as an improper fraction. Whenever your numerator is higher than your denominator, you will always end up with it's an improper fraction, so you'll have a whole number. All right, so 17 divided by 4. And the same thing here. I'm going to get a whole number and a decimal. All right, menu 2-1. 4 and 25 hundredths. Now I could have put the negative in with the problem, and it would have just added the negative. But I just went ahead and did the fraction without putting that in there, and I just added at the end. Okay, so when you have negatives, we start with the negatives first, because remember that we're going from least to greatest. So remember that on a number line, if you had a -4, okay, 4 and 25 hundredths is actually going to be a little bit more. In other words, it's a smaller number, isn't it? So this is where you have to be careful. When you have negatives, the one that looks larger is going to be the smaller value. Okay? So this is first. This is second. So I'm going to go ahead and cross those out. Now I need to work with these 3. These are all positive numbers. So whenever you have 4, we're going to skip. So 4 would come next, because remember these have to place values. It's the opposite when they're negative. So when they're positive, this will be smaller than these two. It's almost like money. This is $4.12. This is $4. This is $4.50. Who has more money? Absolutely. So this will be third. You have fourth, and you have fifth. When you're comparing these two, who has more? You can even add that 0. 50 is larger than 12. Okay? Then I rewrite it using my original number set, which is why you're going to want to use a separate sheet of paper. You can spread your numbers out. Don't try and put all this onto the worksheet that I gave you. And please, please, please attach your work to the worksheet for tomorrow. So first was -17 fourths. Second, -4. Third, square root of 16. Fourth, it was already 4 and 12/100ths. And then fifth was 9/2. So remember that when you're ordering a set of numbers, a set of real numbers, you convert them to decimal form. This was pretty easy. I was able to put these from least to greatest just by looking at them because they were so different. But if the numbers were really close together, that is when I would create a vertical line and compare them that way. Line up the decimal, add zeros to compare the numbers. A lot easier when they have the same number of place values. So remember that, go back, you read the problem. What if it said greatest to least? Okay, even though I did least to greatest, you just reverse it if the question asks greatest to least. There you have it. Good luck, and I'm always available for your questions. See you tomorrow.